Welcome to this Java Break with Basis. Today's session is about disaster recovery and ransomware. Let's have a look at the agenda. Briefly, we'll cover just exactly what we're referring to when we speak of disaster recovery. We'll touch on the Basis data replication feature. We'll present a use case of that replication feature in action. We'll answer the question, just what is ransomware? And then we'll present Basis disaster recovery services and your options there. It's also worth noting that this session is good for Pro5, Visual Pro5, and BBJ solutions. Dealing with disaster. Hey, wait, isn't this someone else's worry? Your IT infrastructure is often not a high-profile management concern, but in the 21st century, it's become vital to the operation of your business. Just like your plumbing, your electrical or heating systems at the office, it's just not the core of your business focus. But when neglected, your business could be catastrophically affected. Without functioning IT systems, even the best-run businesses would be crippled without them. You may have business crisis planning in place for fire or natural disasters, but a business data disaster recovery needs to have a plan as well. Many of our clients are of such a size that they don't have a full-time IT staff in-house. This puts a greater burden on the users, typically the ERP manager or the accounting team, to protect their systems and lead this important discussion. When considering a backup and recovery plan, know that some part of your human or electronic business system will eventually fail and cause a disruption. With proper planning and organization, though, this eventuality doesn't have to become a big problem. What would the cost to your business be in employee downtime, lost data, degraded customer service, and in management time? Basis has a team with decades of experience, and we can help guide your backup and recovery discussions. Feel free at any time to reach out to us. The human factor. I love this image of the restore disk held in place by a magnet. Think about it. Let's take a moment to review data backup systems you are probably using. The first is on-site backups using tape drives. We hope not. Portable and flash hard drives, and other network storage devices. Some of these options are very inexpensive, though in the case of removable devices, their portability is a security risk. Then you might have off-site backups. We might have you consider the number of off-site copies of your data, and most importantly, do you know if you can actually recover your data with this setup? Have you ever tested this? And here's the big point to be made. Backups of your data is not a disaster recovery plan. The emphasis here is recovery. Would you be able to operate with minimal performance impact if your office becomes unusable? How long does it take to restore both your data and your applications to a backup machine and become operational again? Is that a few hours? A few days? Do you know? Disaster recovery is much more than a copy of your data from some time in the past. When you have a hardware failure, do you have a hot backup? With a hot backup, you can switch your business to a replicated backup system and resume your operations. This is another item that Basis can assist you with. The first step in your disaster recovery plan is replication of your data. And the good news is, the database and file replication feature is already a part of your Basis technology set. Basis uses it, as do many of our customers. More good news. Replication is available at no charge with your SAM coverage. It's a near real-time backup of your data, not yesterday's or last week's data. And best of all, it is instantly verifiable and instantly accessible. Features rather unique in the marketplace. It should be noted here that replication does not replace your backups. As most of you know, backups require that all user processes be closed and no business functions can be carried out on the data. Additionally, the backup needs to be completed before users are allowed back onto the system, and in general, the process needs to be managed. Backups do, though, establish an exact timestamp and are perfect for retrieving data from a known point in time. With replication in place, your backup is actually done from the replicated data. A brief pause of your production system of at most a few minutes allows you to establish that point in time for your replication job. There is little or no downtime, unlike the hours-long backup process. Meanwhile, a queue is created of changes that replication captures when it is unpaused. The replication queue and replication itself only contains the changes to your data, making it a fast and efficient process. The resulting data backup has a guarantee of integrity since no one was writing to the data. Furthermore, your backup is instantly verifiable since queries and reporting can be configured to run against it if you wish. Lastly, replication sets the stage for a true disaster recovery plan. As a use case, we had a large end user in the upper Midwest whose data is continuously replicated to cloud servers. Early on, they recognized the power and value of BASIS's replication, and they moved to replace their legacy backup system. And guess what? They employed this feature at no cost, since they maintained their SAM coverage. The target system requires a minimum of a one-user BBJ license covered by SAM. This was a no-brainer for them, and it should be for you as well. Let's see how to set up that replication job.
Creating a BBJ replication job is very straightforward inside Enterprise Manager. I'm currently logged into Enterprise Manager on a Linux server here in the office, and I would like to replicate this add-on software database up to a cloud server. So to do that, I've fired up a Linux Amazon EC2 instance. I installed the same version of BBJ on that server, and I've logged into Enterprise Manager on that server. This will serve as our target replication server. I'm currently looking at the database module on that server, and as you can see, there are two databases currently configured. Ultimately, I would like a read-only version of my add-on software database running here. So let's click back to the source server and configure a replication job to do that. The replication job has been created. Clicking back onto the target server, we can do a refresh of the database module and see that our new read-only add-on software database has been created on the target replication server. Likewise, if we click into replication jobs on the target server, we can see that a new target replication job has been created. So while this job is initializing, let's go back to the source server and take a look at some of the groundwork I have laid to monitor this replication job.
And now let's see how to test that replication job to make sure it works.
Okay, my replication job is created, and it looks like the data on the target server is in sync with the data on the source server. And I can determine that by looking at the replicated through timestamp on the replication job interface in Enterprise Manager. In this case, I am on the source server. Right off the bat, I can see that the replication job is running. And I can see that the replicated through timestamp is pretty close to my system time, 10:27 p.m. So let's take a look at the data on the target replication server. We can just do a very simple query and confirm that we're seeing data. Now let's do a very specific query and maybe change some of the data on the source server to see how quickly it is reflected back on the target server. So we have two records that have a contact of Mr. James Rockville. So I'm going to go back to my source server. I have Buoy add-on running there. And I'm going to edit one of those records and change that contact name. Let's change him to Mr. Mike Scully. We'll go back and repeat our query on the target server. Now you can see that only one record has Mr. James Rockville. So let's look for Mr. Mike Scully instead. And there he is. So this is great. We have a stateful read-only copy of the add-on software database running in the cloud. So let's try to trigger some of these. And go back to my replication job. And I'll pull over my terminal application here. And I'm just going to pause that replication job. You can see an event was fired right off the bat. The enable state has changed, and it is no longer enabled. It has been set to false. Now let's hopefully find an email alert. Looks like one did come in. And just like the event handler program, it's tracking the UUID of the replication job, and the status of the replication job has been set to false. Enabled has been set to false. So let's go ahead and click on the job and resume. And you can see that another event has been handled.
Ransomware has been very newsworthy in recent years, and it has actually gotten much worse. But what exactly is ransomware? Ransomware is a type of malware that threatens to publish the victim's data or perpetually block access to that data unless a ransom is paid. Advanced malware uses a technique called cryptoviral extortion, in which it encrypts the victim's files, making them totally inaccessible, and then demands a ransom payment to decrypt them. Ransomware is typically carried out using a Trojan that is disguised as a legitimate file that the user is tricked into downloading or opening when it arrives as an email attachment. It might read order invoice or the file that you have requested. So how prevalent is ransomware? It has happened to Basis, and yes, it has happened to our end users. Recall that I said ransomware was getting much worse. Well, it had a very good 2020. With millions of people working from home due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the opportunities for infection and exploitation were higher than ever. They were more frequent and more dangerous ransomware attacks in the last 12 months than in any comparable period. Cybersecurity Ventures says that a company was attacked in the United States every 11 seconds. So how does the Basis replication feature thwart ransomware? File type changes are instantly recognized and the infected files are not replicated. So your replicated data is preserved at the moment before the attack. And you are able to restore your business files from the clean, replicated copy. Let's demo testing that anti-ransomware feature. Bruce?
So what happens if something horrible like a ransomware attack affects your data? Well, we can demonstrate that by doing a simple command. I'm going to simulate what ransomware does to your data files. By encrypting it, I'm just going to run a very simple command using the GPG program to encrypt the table that we've been running queries against, ARM-01. First, let's just do a file of ARM-01 to show how it is displayed at the OS level before we corrupt it. You can see that it shows up as a BBX file. And then let's run our command. Okay. And we'll do a file in that file again. You can see that it's been changed to a data file. Now it should be no longer possible for me to do a query against that table on the source server. So we'll do a very quick check of that. And you can see that I am unable to. BPJ Services has just discovered the bad file on the source server. And once again, an event has been triggered in my debug log showing that a problem file has been added, ARM-01. And we can see that in the replication interface as well, if we double click into the replication job and click on problem files. And you can see there's even a description. Okay. However, the file should be unaffected on the target side. So let's take a look at let's actually close this query again and get back into the database and just confirm that we can still perform a query against that same table. And we can. So if we look at that table on the target server, we can see that it's still a BBX file. So we have a good copy on the target server and a bad copy on the source server.
Thanks, Bruce. And now you can move on to recovery. BASIS's disaster recovery services deliver peace of mind for the most important part of your business. You receive a validated data backup along with a disaster recovery instance, and that delivers business continuity. This is what BASIS's data replication offers. You receive record-level replication, preventing any possibility of data corruption. You're provided with remote access to validate your backup. Monitoring to email system alerts that are extensively configurable on various events. The queued data means a very small performance impact on the live system. The secondary server can also be positioned to quickly become your live server. And there is additional value that the replication server can serve for your business. Your performance-intensive queries can be performed on your near real-time data without taxing your live system. Various ODBC or SQL queries will have essentially the same results. Someone's elaborate SQL query that might be a monstrous performance hit won't degrade the live server. And what about security? BASIS's data replication supports AES 256-bit encryption, the strongest and most robust encryption standard that is commercially available today. Well, gee, how can I get this set up? This can be done with your own hardware, preferably in a secondary location where a single calamity won't wipe out both systems. Or you can set up your own cloud system yourself. But what if you don't want your team to have to worry about this? You can contact BASIS Sales for pricing. BASIS Professional Services can implement the project, and there is a one-time setup fee that consists of creating the replication jobs, creating a cloud application instance, and of course testing to validate that the replication is working properly. The disaster recovery services are delivered for a monthly fee. And what do you get? You receive a cloud instance for your data repository, a cloud instance for disaster recovery configured with your BASIS applications, a rolling 7-day cycle of incremental backups plus a 3-month cycle of a full backup. You receive an instantly verifiable secondary data set. We will provide monitoring software with email alerts. And again, what does it deliver? Peace of mind. So in summary, remember that these BASIS features are good for your Pro 5, Visual Pro 5, and BBJ applications. During this Java break, I have explained that data backups and a disaster recovery plan are not comparable. The BASIS replication feature uniquely provides you with an instantly verifiable, near real-time copy of your data, and you can verify that it is really there. This data copy can be put to work for your large resource-consuming queries and analysis. Whether you extend the replication feature into a disaster recovery plan for your business with our assistance or without, or elect to use the BASIS disaster recovery service, know that with a high degree of confidence, your business can recover and be operational in a short amount of time. That's peace of mind. So in summary, we covered what a disaster recovery is, what the data replication features include. We touched on what ransomware is as a definition. We talked about the recovery services that BASIS offers. And now we're ready for your questions.